Group of people who are not ideologically captured by either side. I am tired of the extremes and the extremists who dominate the debate. They have the megaphone. I consider myself an old school liberal. You have to make that distinction now because, you know, the word woke, which started out as a good thing, being alert to injustice, and a lot of people get triggered by the word. There's a coalition of Trump voters, people who really like him. They certainly are those. And then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively.
Bill Maher just went full savage mode in a face-to-face sit-down with Joe Scarborough on MSNBC, and it got spicy real fast. No warm-up, no filter, just peak Maher energy from the jump. He stared Scarborough dead in the eye and torched MSNBC. And the whole woke echo chamber for, in his words, completely losing the plot. No sugarcoating, no hand-holding. Just straight-up flamethrower mode. The triggered alert? Off the charts. We're talking a solid 7.5 on the meltdown meter and climbing. This wasn't just an interview. It was a verbal body slam dressed as political commentary.
Some disinformation from the left, but comparing it to what Donald Trump spews out every day, every week, comparing it to what Elon Musk is spewing out, unfortunately, on X, there's no...
You were like, Bill, how can you, Mr. False Equivalency? It's like, no, Joe, come on. I thought you were Joe Scarborough. There's crazy on both sides.
The combo lit up from the jump, no slow burn, just straight fireworks. It kicked off with a throwback to an old-school beef where Maher clowned Scarborough for pretending like the left never spreads misinformation. For real, Joe really tried to slide in with the classic "we're the good guys" routine, like the left's record is spotless. But Maher wasn't having it. Not even close. With that signature smirk and a few savage jabs, Maher tore Scarborough's fairy tale to pieces live on air. No filter, no fluff. He straight up called it. The left, including MSNBC, has absolutely pushed their own brand of spin. And Maher didn't just say it, he brought receipts. COVID era? Exhibit A, he slammed how the messaging flipped every other week, how dissenting voices were instantly shut down, and how trust the science started sounding more like a political slogan than actual public health advice.
You know, people do. Or have things changed, and it's mostly things. The left wasn't as crazy under Bush and Obama. They just weren't. And I was not going to hold my tongue.
Maher wasn't done, not even close. He went straight for the jugular, tearing into the smug, self-righteous censorship culture that let all this insanity take root in the first place. That fake moral high ground? Maher yanked it right out from under them like a magician pulling a rug. And Scarborough's face? Man looked like he just bit into a lemon made of regret. Straight up stunned. Then came the backlash angle progressives. Always throwing shade, saying Maher's the one who changed. But he clapped back hard. I haven't changed. The left's lost its damn mind. And the wild part? He kinda has a point. Maher broke it down what liberalism used to mean. Real free speech, questioning power, using your brain instead of clapping like trained seals. That's the Maher DNA. But now? The left's turned into this stiff, scripted echo chamber where stepping out of line gets you canceled on sight. Performative outrage has replaced free thinking, and Maher's not playing along. Not now. Not ever.
Don't tell me there hasn't been a change.
Right.
And the victim culture, the cancel culture.
I will say this, though. As far, listen, I agree. There's been a change on the...
Started as a real push for progress? Yeah, that's now spiraled into a chaotic contest of who can scream offended the loudest. Maher didn't hold back, he went straight for the throat, calling out how the modern left has locked itself in a maze of moral purity tests. It's no longer about truth or growth, it's about performing in the moral Olympics and seeing who can cancel someone faster. Identity politics, once a legit tool for visibility and empowerment, has been twisted into a silencing weapon, even aimed at their own. Maher spelled it out with brutal clarity. Healthy disagreement. The heartbeat of any real democracy is now treated like a crime. Say one thing off script? Boom. Cancelled. Doesn't matter if you've been loyal to liberal values your whole life, just ask Maher. And then came the woke bomb. Maher took a moment to reflect on what that word used to mean: justice, equality, real change. Back then, woke was about truth and unity. It brought people together. Now, it's been hijacked, flipped, and twisted into a toxic tool for fake outrage and social clout.
You have to make that distinction now, because the word woke, which started out as a good thing, being alert to injustice, and a lot of people get triggered by the word.
S not anti-justice, he's anti-BS. He's calling out how the far left is swinging morality around like a hammer to shut down any conversation that doesn't toe the line. It's all turned into a loud, angry performance, more about flexing superiority than actually fixing real problems. And when woke becomes a parody of itself, yeah, the real issues, inequality, civil rights, genuine social change, get drowned in all that noise. Maher's just the one bold enough to say what everyone else is thinking. His message? It hit hard and cut deep. Liberalism, at its core, wasn't about silencing people or canceling dissent. It stood for free thought and open debate. But now, it's eating its own.
Win over the undecided voters is to convince them that she's not part of what they suspect she might be, sort of a stealth version of the worst excess.
One big reason the Democrats took a hit in the elections was because of their echo chamber mindset, only listening to voices that already agree with them. Then came the obvious mention, Kamala Harris. Instead of trying to cool things down or offer a steady hand, she went all in. Rather than acting as a calming, reasonable leader, she backed some of the most extreme ideas coming from the far left. She didn't try to separate herself from the chaos, she became the face of it. This isn't balance. It's political theater, and Bill Maher is calling out everyone playing a part. Harris supported hot-button policies like allowing biological men to compete in women's sports and use their restrooms. That didn't just upset conservatives, it left moderates scratching their heads and even made some liberals question what was going on. It wasn't bold. It wasn't leadership. It was just divisive. Instead of leading with unity and common sense solutions, Harris leaned hard into identity politics and flashy, empty gestures.
People who really like him, they certainly are those. And then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively anti-common.
Real issues started shaking the country, soaring. Crime, out-of-control inflation, chaos at the border. What did we hear from Kamala Harris? Vague comments, empty PR fluff, or just silence? When people needed answers and common-sense leadership, she disappeared into political theater. Harris didn't rise to the occasion, she leaned into ideology. And let's be honest, that's not leadership, it's pandering. The fallout wasn't just online complaints, it was felt all over the country. Bill Maher put it simply, he's not a Trump fan. But when you take away the drama and look at the facts, Trump came across as more grounded than Harris. Say what you want about his personality, but his policies focused on what really matters to everyday Americans, things like a strong economy, secure borders, energy independence, and national defense. Maher's point wasn't about fanboy politics, it was about reality. And more people are starting to see that.
Look, I get this about the blue team, and it's on my
him or hate him, you always knew where Trump stood, clear and direct. For millions of Americans, that confidence made a real impact. That's why he didn't just win, he steamrolled the competition. People knew what they were voting for. While Kamala Harris relied on buzzwords, Trump was making moves, cutting taxes, removing red tape and securing peace deals. His actions spoke louder than words. Trump didn't waste time pleasing everyone. He tackled issues head-on. Even critics admitted he stood his ground. Biden, on the other hand, hesitated and filled his team with activists instead of problem solvers. Bill Maher, like many, saw that when the noise cleared, Trump was still standing strong. That's what voters remembered.
Captured by either side. I am tired of the extremes and the extremists who dominate the debate.
I want a group of people who aren't locked into either extreme. I'm tired of the extremists who dominate the conversation. They've got the megaphone. Bill Maher sees it clearly. This isn't journalism, it's damage control. When the media refuses to call out the left's mistakes, it creates a one-sided echo chamber where no one is challenged and nothing changes. And when they keep using Trump as a shield, they're not helping the left, they're blinding them. Kamala's approval issues? That's on her choices, her politics, her image. No amount of finger-pointing or media gymnastics will change that. Maher isn't playing along, and neither are the millions of people who see right through it. People are drained by the chaos, especially the over-the-top antics from the far left.
Very, like night and day different from 50 years ago, even probably 20 years ago. And how well you do and things that happen to you that are good or bad, there's a whole constellation.
There's a middle ground, and both things can be true at once. I'm not personally responsible, but did I benefit? Probably. And the media. Outlets that prop up one side like it's gospel? That's a problem. Big respect to Bill Maher for calling out MSNBC's bias live on their turf. That's not just brave, it's bold. In a world of cancel culture, going against the narrative takes guts. But Maher didn't flinch. MSNBC has all the reach, but what's the point if they're just pushing one-sided stories and protecting political favorites? That's not journalism. It's PR. They've become a hype squad for the Democratic Party. Maher didn't just call them out, he ripped off the mask. And that's the energy we need. Fearless voices inside the media. If the press can't tell the truth, no matter who it offends, what's left of democracy? Biased reporting traps people and lets corruption thrive. It's time for media giants to stop being political mouthpieces and do real journalism. MSNBC's so far left. Expecting them to find the middle ground is like waiting for a campaign ad to be neutral. It's not happening.
Been more relevant than you are right now?
I recognize it now that you said it. I'm just going to sign on to that.
Facts are cherry-picked, and stories are twisted to fit whatever narrative they want to push. Truth and balance left long ago. Instead of reporting news, they craft scripts. When a major network becomes a political puppet show, it breaks public trust and fails journalism. Americans don't want anchors as cheerleaders. They want facts and clarity. But as long as MSNBC stays in its ideological bubble, real journalism is a dream. The bigger issue is MSNBC and the far left pushing an agenda that makes no sense. It's not about debate or progress, it's forcing ideas that leave people confused. They're not inviting discussion, they're making ultimatums, and that's dangerous. People want truth, not propaganda. This isn't about change. It's about enforcing a worldview many Americans don't agree with. It's not here's a new perspective, but believe this or else. And that risks tearing apart the very fabric of the country. In TRVEW, interview Bill Maher is calling out the madness disguised as progress. He's not saying stay stuck in the past, but stop losing your mind over the future. He's challenging the new rulebook where asking questions makes you the villain and having an opinion is hate speech. He's standing up against cancel culture and the echo chambers that shut people down. Americans are waking up. People are tired of being told what to think, say, and who to disagree with. This isn't rebellion. It's common sense. Maher's voice is cutting through the circus, speaking the truth others are afraid to say. In a world full of spin and fake performances, authenticity is rare. That's why people are listening to Maher. He's real. He's not here to please anyone. He's just keeping it real. His voice matters more than ever as people turn away from fake narratives and seek the truth. If you're tired of the nonsense, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching.